All right, Mason School's school board met last night, decided to accept the resignation of Stacy Schuler. It was a unanimous acceptance. Well, yeah. At that point, you can't get away with being the one going, wait a minute. Do we really want to accept her resignation? Imagine being that guy. Is this something we really want to do? I think maybe we ought to hold off on this. That lets you know what public opinion will do. She could be innocent. She could be completely innocent. She could be found not guilty of all charges. Now, I personally think that's not likely. But think about it. She's only been charged at this point. There still has to be a trial and whatever else. But public opinion, I mean, we all just have, I guess, learned to accept that these things are possible now, even from females. And the details have come out, looks pretty salacious, and a lot of us have just accepted that it's true. And the school board, they can't be the one that says, well, let's think this thing through a moment. I'm not suggesting they do. I just want you to know that you can't be the one. You can't be the one to say that. Or people, how dare you? You propped this lady up. You allowed this. Did you hear the clips from the meeting last night? There was a parent that was giving it to him. I mean, he was sticking it. Listen to this clip.
And why are these people on paid administrative leave? Why weren't they immediately a clear-cut message sent to the public that says, we will not tolerate these things. You are fired. I will put up whatever legal cost it takes to send the message. But you haven't. The administration has been weak. And I say this, Kevin Bright, you are 10 times more dangerous than that molester because it's your policies that got us to where we were, and it is your policies that now have cost their children their innocence. Just get out of Mason. Get out.
That is incredible. Listen, I'm somebody who sticks it to elected officials. That's one of the things I do. I hold them accountable, and if they're screwing up, I'm somebody who tells them straight. And even I, when I heard that, was like, ooh, man, he really stuck it to him. But he's right. Think about that. Although passionate, maybe his 10 times more dangerous, might be off, maybe not. He's really right. One of the things that allowed this to happen, and maybe not specifically this one, but these types of things, are the administration, the people running the schools. That should come as no secret to you. We've known that for a long time. Bad policies, focusing on the wrong things, and that culture of corruption, that secrecy. We don't want parents to know too much about what's going on. You ever go to talk to a teacher or an administrator and not get any results? You know how many stories I hear? We talk about schools a lot. The stories, it is overwhelming. I'll bet I get a couple of dozen emails a day on stories where parents are wanting my help because their school, their administrator didn't listen to them when they had an issue in a rude fashions quite often. Just ignored them, never returned their calls, even though they called 14 times, sent them 400 emails, went to the school board. And in some cases, them actually saying, I don't care, I don't want to hear from you anymore, leave me alone, it's my classroom, it's my school, whatever. He's got a great point. The administrators have allowed things like this to happen. You really mean to tell me they hadn't heard any of the rumors? I have gotten many emails since this story broke and Scott Sloan started talking about it. Do you remember when this came out? He said, listen, I'm getting information out of Mason that something big's coming. He didn't say who it was, but he had the details. And the information he had ended up being right. Well, if he heard about it, and there's other people that knew it was going on, why didn't it break last September? Why didn't it break last November? Before some of it happened, in the middle of the whole string of things happening, because it happened all the way up through Christmas. They hear this stuff. I've gotten many emails from people saying, Doc, you have no idea what's happening in my district. You have no idea what... Doc, I know of a teacher who is ... There's a kid who I know is ... Stories go on and on. I know some from the high schools I went to. Some of my nephews ended up graduating from one of the high schools years later. Hey, my sister on the phone, she can tell you. This is in Ohio, of an administrator who ended up marrying a student right after she graduated and was no longer a student. Interesting. Apparently at that very moment, they realized they were in love and there was nothing going on beforehand. These cases are out there. So how come we're not hearing more about it? It is time we shine the light on these school districts. It is time these rumors, we find out if these rumors are true or are just rumors. And how do we do that? Administration that stops trying to protect themselves, their teachers, the unions who stop trying to protect themselves and their teachers, and start caring about the students, who start caring about the students and are accountable to the parents and the students. That if these rumors are out there, investigate them and find out. Get rid of your spokespersons who are simply trying to make your district look good. And go back to talking to the parents, where a principal says, hey, here's what's going on. We're looking into it. When we get to that, then you'll stop seeing these stories. We'll stop having these incidents. Doc Thompson on the big one, 700 WL.
All right, let's continue. We have Patel and Mason. And Patel and Mason, welcome to the Bill Cunningham Show. Patel, how are you?
I'm very good, Bill. How are you?
It's a great day to be an American. Give me a full report.
I wanted to tell you, I was at the meeting last night, and
Yes,
this John Meyer character, he's always at these high school meetings, okay? And he does not even live in Mason. And yet he constantly tells Dr. Bright that he's doing a bad job, and it's just not right. Now, let me ask you this, Bill. How many people work for 700 WLW?
I'd say no more than about 10 or 12.
Well, there's thousands of employees, 1,300 employees at Mason, and you can't police every single person. And this guy is singling out Dr. Bright for something that maybe he's responsible for it in the long run, but to say that there's stuff going on that he knew about, it's not right. He acted very, very quickly when this happened with Stacy Schuler.
Patel, every year in the city of Cincinnati Police Division, there are 10 cops on average that commit crimes while wearing the uniform of a Cincinnati cop. How many times has Stryker or a city council member said to Stryker, because you're the chief of police of 1,000 men and women, if 10 cops out of 1,000 screw up, that's 1/10 of 1%. You ought to be fired. You can't, there's got to be hundreds of employees of Mason City Schools, maybe 1,000. How is Dr. Bright responsible for someone else's criminal misbehavior when it's already illegal to do it?
That's exactly what I'm saying. And this John Meyer character, who is completely bald, by the way, it's a very ugly man. He comes in there and he says all these things on television because he knew he's on TV last night, and it was ridiculous. And I see him at all the meetings, and he is not a good person. He does not even live in Mason.
Well, Patel, I stand with you. I don't know Dr. Bright, but and I asked Scott Sloan this question about 10 minutes ago, can you put guilty knowledge ahead of time inside the head of Dr. Bright? And he said no. I said, well, how's the man responsible? Do you fire the CEO of Procter & Gamble if an employee commits a crime on duty at Procter & Gamble? Of course not.
No, the whole reason that John Meyer got up there last night is because he wants to roll back the taxes. That's the main thing. Him and that other hillbilly lady, Sharon Poe, who comes on your show every once in a while, it's all about rolling back taxes. So whenever they can make someone look bad, in this case Dr. Bright, they're going to do that. And they're going to use the Stacy Schuler information to do that. And it's not right. He's a very, very bad man.
Well, I tell you what, Patel, we got John Meyer coming up in about 5 minutes.
Well, enjoy it. He's a horrible human being. Thank you, Billy. You're a great American.
Thank you, Patel. And he also said John Meyer is ugly. I didn't think the guy was that ugly. Russ Jackson thinks he's ugly. But he said he's bald and ugly, and then he said this woman's a hillbilly. Is that fair to say? I don't think so. Well, John Meyer, you hold on. I'm going to get you on and talk about this, and right after the break. Let's continue now with John Meyer, who was the fellow in Mason last night that you just heard from. And John Meyer, is this the same John referred to from Patel as bald and ugly?
Am I online?
Yes, go ahead. You're on the air.
Yeah. Oh, not a problem. And I think the trick over the centuries has been kill the messenger. You know, I don't have any hair. I am bald. And I got the face that God gave me, so that's all I can do.
I think you're a handsome man.
I appreciate it.
Now, tell me about this. Do you live in Mason? Do you pay Mason taxes?
I live in Mason for about 30 years. My first house was on Sherman Terrace. I sold that, and I now live at 9057 Nottingham Lane, Mason, Ohio.
Oh.
I have 2 children that go to the school district.
Okay.
And I have studied thousands of documents and spent hundreds of hours reviewing all types of things that were going on at Mason City Schools. And so I have never met this Mr. Patel, but he's absolutely wrong in his first assumption. I've always lived in Mason. Matter of fact, I was here before Procter & Gamble was here.
Now, John, is there a systemic problem in Mason City Schools, or is this a singular event?
No, there's a system problem. And very simply, what Kevin Bright has done historically and over the years, he has made every effort to conceal, to allow, to promote this type of conduct. And examples I use, we had an administrator in Mason who gave alcohol to students, and then when he was questioned by it, he lied about it. And then what Mason City Schools did was they took this guy and they promoted him from a principal to a $140,000 job in the administration offices. Then we found out that we had what they called the White House. And the White House is an old farmhouse behind the school. Mm-hmm. There's a basement to this White House. And when we started getting anonymous calls, look into what is in this White House basement, we found out that there were teachers who couldn't conduct themselves properly around the students. There was one teacher, and when we pulled the agronomy file, he had numerous touchings of fellow students. One of them had to do with he pulled back a bra strap and stuck a Post-it note on the girl. What the superintendent had done with these people is he had sent a message that we're going to cover for you guys, and we're going to put you in the White House basement at full salary. We're going to write a special contract. They wrote a special contract for Turner, who said, you don't have to do anything. You're non-evaluated, and we're going to pay you $60,000 or $70,000. And the teachers that told me about this said, John, it's so bad that the White House basement is called the sexual rehab department.
Really? So
Yes.
There's sex everywhere at Mason City Schools.
It is reaching beyond what I've seen. And the correlation that I have is not that I'm a genius or not that I'm, some special thing. I saw it before. And I saw the same thing happen when I was in the Catholic seminary from 81 to 84.
No question.
And what would happen is it's the same thing with these administrators. There's a correlation in our schools that if the administrators do not have to conduct themselves in the proper manner sexually with their subordinates, with everybody down the line, why would we expect our children to conduct themselves in a different manner?
Well, what do you plan, John Meyer, what do you plan on doing to get Dr. Bright out of his job as superintendent? We have about a minute remaining. What do you plan on doing?
What I would like to see, it's time for the entire people of Mason to know the truth as far as the sex in the schools, as far as what's been going on. They should ask about Dave Allen. They should ask about a school board member who just recently resigned, why. And then they should ask why, when the students got caught having sex in the school, why they weren't turned over to the police department. So the point is, let's let the public know exactly how much in depth this goes. And I say this very honestly, if the general public knew the depth that our children were being abused in the public schools, it would make the Catholic school scandals look small.
But John Meyer, you don't sound to me like a babbling idiot.
I'm not. And again, whoever this Mr. Patel is, I've never met him.
Well,
but I tell all these people that I go to St. Susanna's Church 7:30 every Sunday, and then if anybody wants to hunt me up, wait till after church and they can kill me in the parking lot.
John Meyer, we got to go. You stay in touch, and you call me back with more information next week, okay?
Yes, sir. And thank you. Thank you for letting me straighten the record.
Thank you. That guy doesn't sound like an idiot to me. He may be bald, he may be ugly, but he's not a babbling fool. But on the other hand, maybe he is. Let's continue with more. Bill Cunningham, 700 WLW.
WLW. All right, the very latest on Sloppy Schuler here.
You got some info, I'm sure.
Well, let's do this first. Before I get new info there, let's talk about what happened last night. As you know, Tracy, And actually, starting back to yesterday afternoon when her attorney, Stacy Schuler's attorney, handed in to the school board her resignation from Mason School, so the board did not have to go through the awkward process of removing her, and however long that takes. But after this, though, last night at 7 o'clock, Mason School Board held their weekly meeting, or their maybe it is weekly meeting, regarding issues around the district. But I guess the room was packed with people, outraged citizens, parents, and taxpayers, who not only demanded Stacy Schuler be fired, which she had already resigned, but also wanted the head of Dr. Kevin Bright, who is the superintendent of Mason City Schools. One guy by the name of John Meyer probably was the most articulate and fired up of the bunch. This is him from last night.
And why are these people on paid administrative leave? Why weren't they immediately a clear-cut message sent to the public that says, we will not tolerate these things, you are fired, I will put up whatever legal cost it takes to send the message, but you haven't. The administration has been weak. And I say this, Kevin Bright, you are 10 times more dangerous than that molester, because it's your policies that got us to where we were, and it is your policies that now have cost their children their innocence. You ought to get out of Mason. Just get out of Mason. Get out.
That is one angry guy right there. Let's talk to him live. It's John Meyer, hopefully. Maybe a little bit calmer, but certainly, I'm going to guess, is just as articulate as he was last night. John, thanks for joining us this afternoon on the show.
And I appreciate you inviting me, and I am a lot calmer today.
Well, we'll see, John. We will be talking about this. Now, you lived in Mason how many years?
I lived in Mason approximately 24 years, and I have two children who went through the Mason school system. I am well-versed with Mason City Schools. We have spent hundreds of hours going through documents and watching many things in the school and talking to the superintendent, going over documents for them. And that's why my statement, and it holds true, Kevin Bright and the school board is 10 times more dangerous than a child molester, because historically Kevin Bright and the school board have set the policies that have done everything to say to a teacher, go ahead and make a decision to do wrong, and we won't have the giant punishment. And the examples that I give you, we had an administrator at Mason City Schools who gave beer and alcohol to children and then lied to Kevin Bright about it. Kevin Bright covered for that guy. He also promoted him to a position higher up in the hierarchy and then covered for him and tried to make up a story. At Mason City Schools, we got a call from the school teachers that said, hey, John, we want you to look into who's working in the White House basement. And they said the White House basement is affectionately named by the school teachers as a sexual rehab department. And so when we pulled the contracts of the teachers that were in there, we saw teacher contracts that teachers had been improperly touching our students. That was documented in the contracts. One guy stuck a Post-it note on a girl after he pulled back her tank top. We had one lady who they made a special contract for, Turner, who said basically, you don't have to do any work while you're down here in the basement. Your contract is non-performance rated, and we will expunge your record under any negative inferences. So they expunged the record. Then we had a music teacher, Adam Brown, which I told the superintendent Bright. He's dating the students. He was dating the students, and the superintendent basically said, I'll look into it, and then came back and said, no, there's nothing to it. Well, 6 months later, the guy is now booted out because one of the girls who was dating was complaining about it. And did the superintendent go over and turn it over to the police department immediately? No. The girl's mother worked at the school, and he goes over and has a conversation with the girl's mother. And then what happens is nobody wants to prosecute this teacher. He loses his license, but he's not prosecuted, so he sort of gets away.
And then we get back, because I'm hearing a lot of this stuff, too, names of teachers that I have that may have engaged in this kind of conduct. But the reason why you would say, here's the point. Again, John Meyer on the show on 700 WLW, is that if this were one occurrence, if this were just Schuler doing what she did with 5 kids, and it went back as far as last August, and this is it. Would you be calling for the resignation or the head of Dr. Kevin Prate, the superintendent of schools? If it were just Stacy Schuler.
I would probably be calling for his resignation, but not as hard nor as diligently am I now. I believe everybody is able to make one mistake.
But you allege that the problem is with the hierarchy, with the higher-ups, though, John, and it sounds to me like you're saying that if it were one teacher, okay, yeah, it's not. But if this had been going on for a period of years, as I'm also hearing, then there's just something systemic there, and that's the issue.
Well, and again, the reason I recognize this, and I had many conversations with the superintendent, I spent time in the seminary, and I was there in 79, 80, and 81, and I seen the identical situations where the conduct between the administrators and the subordinates was inappropriate, was sexual contact, and the administration did nothing but bury it. And then these guys turn up a couple 100 miles down the road. And then the children, if an adult can't control himself and the administration doesn't enforce the rules for their own inner circle of people, why would you expect that the children are going to be safe?
John, listening to last night and just the passion in your voice, and I told my partner, I says, boy, he must know some stuff. He must know the details. And that's why you're so upset, aren't you? Because you know everything.
Yeah, we have a great amount of information that is extremely disappointing and what I consider extremely dangerous to our children. And if the whole story gets to be told, and what we'll find out is the abuse that our children have been taken in the public schools pales in comparison to what has happened in the Catholic schools.
Yeah. Wow.
Typically, the Catholic schools do a better job at educating them. They did a better job at protecting them. And if the story is truly told, the general public will be shocked.
Well, John Meyer, we hope to get some of the details of that out there because, and what we do here is call attention to things like this that normally get swept under the carpet. Can you tell me, John Meyer, maybe how many years does this go back? And not necessarily with Stacy Schuler, but the others that, one of them you've named and others that are out there. How many years has this been going on there in Mason?
The oldest file that I went back was, I believe, a fellow by the name of Geronimi. And in his file, he had 6 or 7 reprimands for improperly touching the female students, and he was banned from even having female contact with any of the female students. And I believe that goes back 8 or 9 years. And then you can follow the history of it from there. And that's what I'm saying. Historically, the policies that the superintendent and the school board have created makes them potentially more dangerous than the child molester. And the other part of the story is, too, the excuse the superintendent gave is bad people do bad things.
Yeah.
Well, evil people are generally recognized right off the bat. A truly evil person is generally recognized, and you either stay away from them or you hide from them. Mm-hmm. Well, the really sad people in our society, they're average people, and when they make a bad decision, their decision is formulated based upon will the punishment fit the crime. And if an administration has a set of policies that say, okay, administrators are allowed to have sexual affairs with their subordinates, we will cover, protect, and hide that. If the administrators and the school board members are allowed to have affairs with each other, and if the teachers have the secret super sexual rehab department in the White House basement, we're going to give you special contracts. They have done everything they could to say to the molesters, go ahead, we will do what we can to minimize.
John, a lot of accusations here, strong accusations.
Uh-huh.
Do you have any documentations as far as the things that you've accused these people of doing?
When you say documentations, yes, you can look in the files. You can pull the contracts for Sharon Turner. You can pull the file for Frank Geronimi. You can ask why Dave Allen disappeared. And Dave Allen was second in command at Mason City Schools.
He was over the assistant director of human resources.
Yep, yeah. He was groomed to be the next superintendent. When Dave Allen resigned, they gave him 10 words. They said Dave Allen is no longer employed by the district. And
now, I'll tell you what. Hold on. Can you join us for what? Can you hang on for one more segment, John?
Well, certainly.
All right, very good. John Meyer last night spoke. He was angry. He was articulate last night at the school board meeting in Mason regarding Stacy Schuler, and he alleges that he has documents and information that says things like Stacy Schuler go back 8 or 9 years. And I believe Kevin Bright, the superintendent, has been administrator there for 20.
Done nothing about it.
We'll talk more with John Meyer after traffic and weather together. Brian Pitts has it like this time. 700 WLW.
North 75, stop and go from Mitchell to Paddock. Southbound slows approaching the bridge. 71 northbound, you'll be on the brakes heading through the Kenwood Cut. And South 71 in Gallatin County is shut down for an accident just a few miles south of the 71-75 split. That could be closed most of the way through the afternoon drive. Brian Pitts with traffic on 700 WLW.
Here's your forecast from Fox 19 tonight. Cloudy, light snow down to 2. Tomorrow it'll be sunny, but only up to 24. Right now, 20 with Sloan and Tracy. More with John Meyer just ahead on 700 WLW. Sloan and Tracy, 700 WLW. We're continuing our conversation. John Meyer is his name. This is the guy who spoke up last night at the school board meeting in Mason regarding Stacy Schuler and saying that basically wants the head of Kevin Bright, who is the superintendent of Mason schools, wants him out of a job because he alleges that it's not just Stacy Schuler, but this pattern of behavior, sex with students, and inappropriate actions has been going on for 8 to 9 years, according to him.
Hey, John, I want to ask you, you're so passionate about this. Do you have the support of the community, or are you just fighting this fight alone? John, you there?
The community is very supportive as far as trying to understand and comprehend, and this is an awakening to our community, and it's an awakening to the school. And part of the stuff that makes it so dangerous is because Kevin Bright is a very articulate individual. I have no ill will against Kevin Bright. He's a nice guy. I've talked to him 30 or 40 different conversations, and he can't stay because he just doesn't get it. He just doesn't comprehend that inappropriate sexual behavior between administrators and subordinates correlates or relates to teachers and students. And
isn't this, and we're running a little late here, John, let me interrupt for a second. Isn't this kind of what happened with the priest abuse scandal? Obviously, priests are maybe a little bit higher up on the morality pegboard than teachers are, but, you know, we trust them with our children. They spend a lot of time with them, et cetera, et cetera. This is the kind of scandal that really put a dent and help sink the Catholic Church, or, you know, not sink them, but drop them down to a level where a lot of people have left the church. Isn't this the same thing?
Well, and it's identical. And when I look at the situation in the seminary to the situation up here in Mason, it's identical in a sense that the people have a lot of trust in Kevin Bright, and as the community wakes up and as they review the documents and as evidence comes out through court, they're going to come to the understanding that the policies, that the administrations that did everything to get us to this point right now. There is one thing I'd like to say.
Yes, sir.
I couldn't have done this without the help of a great number of people: Sharon Poe, Glenn and Don Duncan, Frank Hoffman, World War II veteran, Helen and Lucille, World War II fighters.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I would like to clarify, there was a gentleman that had called in before, and he had referred to Sharon as my hillbilly friend. Sharon Poe runs her own company, deals with corporate heads of many, many things, and handles a lot of difficult issues.
I've talked to Sharon before, and she's good people. She's a smart lady. She just wants what's best. She wants these people to be good stewards, not only with our children, but with our tax dollars, as do you.
And that's all we're asking.
Yeah.
You know, all we're asking is our children have a safe atmosphere in which to work, that the employees have a direct, clear-cut message. If you conduct yourself in this manner, you're fired. You're done.
John, let me ask you, and a final question because we're running late. This is, of course, has happened in Mason High School. Should we be concerned with other high schools? Do you think it's just in Mason, or do you think it's happening in other high schools?
I think this is in the state of Ohio, and I think what the people need to ask is how many full-time investigators do the state of Ohio have investigating sexual conduct between students and teachers? Last I checked, there was 14 or 16, and I think there was 14 to 18
for the whole state. Wow. I tell you, John, it's been great to talk to you. Thanks so much for coming on. Brave of you to do so. I'm going to put you on hold. Maybe Paulie can get your information because I want to get these documents that you talked about that alleges this has been going back 8 or 9 years, and I'll get those, and hopefully in the next couple of days I'll go through them, and we'll reveal, Tracy, the relevant information in those documents, and maybe name some names. To maybe force some change.
I got to pat you on the back, partner. Just great story that you broke about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, but you know what? Here's John Meyer, who's known this for a while, and now I've heard a lot of rumors. But if this stuff is in ink, this shows in a pattern of behavior that's gone back a long, long time.
But it is just a rumor. You need the documentation.
Well, we're also talking to Michelle, who lives in Mason, up after news. She said she's had sex when she was a student with teachers back in the 1980s. We'll talk to her after a news update. Seg has sports all ahead. Scott Sloan, Tracy Jones, 700 WLW. It's Sloan and Tracy on 700 WLW. Real quick here before we get to Seg and sports. Michelle in Mason, hi.
Hi. First, I want to clarify. I think you guys said before the break that I was calling because I was saying that I'd slept with teachers. I have not.
Oh, you haven't? Would you like to?
No, I just know I've lived in Mason all my life, and I had a parent that worked for Mason City Schools, and I know of allegations going back clear into the 70s. So I don't know that this is necessarily attached to Dr. Bright or Mason Schools. I mean, I would think this goes on in all schools, but I know of at least 3 different cases in the late 70s, early 80s.
I would agree. I think it happens, and if you don't think it's happening at your school, it happens at every school in Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, and all 50 states in America. It's been happening for a long time. Yeah. I think the difference is 2 things. We live in a politically correct age. We live in an age where we have administrators and like that come up with policies to allegedly protect the kids and prevent this. Now, if those administrators knew something was going on and knew something was happening over a period of years, and that wasn't disclosed with the same way you disclosed the Schuler case, then they're implicated as well. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, I would agree. And I think, the cases I know about go back to before Dr. Bright became superintendent. So, I don't know that it's necessarily, this has just happened in the past 8 years or so. It's kind of been a joke with friends of mine that graduated from Mason that we have a long-standing tradition of high school teachers that sleep with students.
Yeah, this is not exclusive to Mason.
Hey, Michelle, I got to ask you ever been on a train?
On what?
Scratch shoulder.
Let's go to Chris and Dayton. You're on the show. Hey, Chris.
Hey, is this Sloan?
It is, and Tracy.
Sloan, is this really you?
Yeah, you're on the air. What's up?
Hey, how dare you ruin a good woman's name? Stacy is innocent until proven guilty, and you know it.
Yeah, when did I ever say she was guilty? I just said, I've said allegedly a lot.
You're making a mockery out of her. I've had enough. I'm sick of it. Everyone's sick of it. Stop with it.
Chris, how do you know Stace?
Do you know her?
Look, that's none of your business.
I'm just asking you a question.
She's a good girl. She's like, she likes football. She's a girl next door type. She wouldn't hurt a fly.
So you do know her.
Better place if there were more people like her and less people like you.
So wait a minute, wait. So it sounds like you do know her, Chris.
She's one of the most loving people I've ever met.
Have you guys ever been romantically involved?
That's what we keep hearing. That's why she's in trouble.
No. Look, these guys, for all we know, are making this up to get money. I don't know why these guys are doing it, but it's ridiculous. You know it's ridiculous. So just stop with your act.
So let me get this straight. If 5 different guys on 5 separate occasions, and from what I'm hearing, many more in the past, are coming forward talking about how she had sex with these kids, not in the school, but most likely in her home in Springboro, that we should not talk about that. Why?
Because she's going to get acquitted.
No, she's not.
She's going to get acquitted.
No, she's not.
You're trying to ruin her reputation because you wish you had a woman like her in your life.
Chris, how do you know she's innocent? What makes you think she's innocent?
Because it's ridiculous. 5 guys? I mean, what are they, just picking numbers now?
Well, no, they had 5 kids that have come forward and said, yeah, that was her, and they have very explicit. No, they all have. Each of those 5 young men were questioned separately by the police, and their 5 stories, from what I hear, corroborate, meaning that there's a thread between all 5, but they also have very vivid details of what happened, what the date was, and where it happened, and described it in such a way and fashion that it's entirely believable, so that a grand jury, and that would be a jury of our peers, Chris, also agreed with what I'm saying.
No. Stacey's being victimized by the media and people like you.
No.
She has a court-ordered curfew. Kids should have curfews, not teachers.
Chris, I got to tell you, I appreciate your loyalty.
That's stupid.
I got to side with him a little bit. It's been a little bit of overkill. I mean, every single day that the last, what would you say, 7 days, you go on, Sloaney, and I mean, that's what you start off the show with, and you go for a half hour.
Wait a minute, now you're here too, talking about the train and everything else.
What you don't realize is Mason is behind Stacey. We all know she's getting acquitted, and we're going to see it. We're going to see it real soon here, and everyone's going to owe an apology, including you.
Chris, did you know that Stacey was a bit of a sexual dynamo? Did you know anything about her past?
I never saw it. All I saw was just a beautiful woman, innocent. I just can't stress what an innocent woman she is. She's a beautiful woman. If you would have known her before this, you wouldn't be saying this right now.
Yeah. Now, did you ever tap that?
No, and that's inappropriate that you would even bring that up.
Well, I had to ask. Apparently, that wouldn't be the first.
Yeah, well, it's not funny.
So do you take issue, Chris, with the grand jury indictment? Now, it'd be one thing for me to pick her name out of a hat and say that this woman is having sex with 16-year-old, 17, 18-year-old students who have since graduated from Mason High School, and it's been going on systemically for a long time, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. But that would be different if I just pointed that out and this woman weren't charged. But you got to realize that a grand jury had returned an indictment against her. That a grand jury heard all of the evidence, all of the facts to what the detectives knew up until that point, and they felt strongly enough to issue that indictment against her of 16 counts.
Yeah, so you're going to tell me that...
How is this the media's fault? Let me finish.
Because it's a grand jury that they're right?
No, I'm basing what I'm saying on the grand jury, that the grand jury is open to much more information than I have, and they felt...
A new partner for the show. If Floyd doesn't shut up, I'm going to come down. I'm going to beat the green and white out.
Hey, easy with the threats. Don't go with the threats. You're not going to threaten my partner.
Well,
Chris, what is Stacey?
Calm down, little man.
Well, you don't know he's little.
He sounds little.
What is Stacey going to do now? I mean, she's never going to teach again. Is she looking for a job? And if she is, I need someone to help me with my blog. I could offer a job. Any chance?
I don't know if she'd be interested, just because there's idiots like Sloan out there trying to ruin her name. She's going to have to find work somewhere. I mean, let's face it, she's not going to be able to work with kids.
As long as it's not around kids, it's probably a good thing. Now, so you have an issue with me talking about something. You're saying that I've basically made her guilty before she's had a chance to prove her innocence. So in your opinion, Chris, real quick here, because I'm running late, I should not talk about stories like this, criminal stories, unless that person has been found guilty. So don't talk about the story until a jury has returned a guilty verdict. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and when they do, you know what? You're the one that's going to be resigning. Okay? She'll get her job back. You'll be resigning.
Okay, now if I'm right, but if I'm right...
You're not. End the story. You're not right. You won't be right.
Okay, if I'm right, then what happens?
There's no if. You wish that you had what it takes to be as successful of a gym teacher as her.
Yeah, that's probably a lot of work. Anyway, Chris, real quick before I let you go, though, so... You just said don't talk about anything until they're proven guilty. So basically,
stop talking about her. Period. Stop.
Okay. Can't say that word. And hit the delay.
Better watch with that guy.
All right. That's good. We're running late anyway. Home of the Red. You did hit delay, right, Paul? Okay, good. Home of the Red, 700 WLW Cincinnati.
Now, John Meyer, we had him on earlier. You got to get the documentation. I mean, made a lot of accusations about Mason High School.
He said he has documentation about past indiscretions that were in personnel files but never disclosed.
A lot of details, though.
He threw some names out there, John Meyer did, and he said he's going to get the docs for me, and then we'll review them.
Why don't you meet him? Is he going to email you the documentation?
I've got to meet him in a parking garage inside the Clear Channel Dust Star here. and he's going to be wearing, I guess, he's going to be wearing a trench coat and a fedora.
You don't want that guy after you. I mean, he's out for blood. He really is.
No, he's been doing this. He's one of those anti-tax guys too, but he's been doing this a while now.
Find out about the White House basement.
Anyway, John Meyer is a guy. He showed up last night at the Mason School Board meeting where they met about Stacy Schuler and what's going on in the investigation, and he got in front of the microphone and had this to say about what's happening there.
And why are these people on paid administrative leave? Why weren't they immediately a clear-cut message sent to the public that says, we will not tolerate these things, you are fired, I will put up whatever legal cost it takes to send the message, but you haven't. The administration has been weak. And I say this, Kevin Bright, you are 10 times more dangerous than that molester because it's your policies that got us to where we were, and it is your policies that now have cost their children their innocence. You ought to get out of Mason. Just get out of Mason. Get out.
I wouldn't call Stacy a molester.
No, and I would say strong. I don't think you fire someone instead of placing them on administrative leave until you're, well, in this case, indicted or.
But we had a previous caller, Michelle, and she was saying that if John Meyer knew about this, why didn't he report it earlier? I mean, it's been going on for years. Why didn't he report it?
Right. And if there's stuff in there too that administrators and school board members were privy to, and there's a pattern of this going on, that raises a much bigger question because now you're talking about systemic issues there.
Well, I think the big question here with Stacy Schuler, was she practicing safe sex?
Well,
has that question been asked?
Well, you know what? That's a good question.
I mean, I think that's a question that I think a lot of people.
I'll do this. Let me see after the next break here. Let me see. I got something in there actually in my stack over here. I'll try and find. I think I have some info.
Because that's important.
Very
the STDs important. And
why don't we do that maybe at 5:20? Let's work some calls in the meantime at 513-749-7800, the big one, pound 700 AT&T. As long as you don't swear like the last guy. I was a little bit angry there. What was his name, Chris?
You better watch it. He could. Would you ever be nervous about some caller coming down here and doing something about it? I mean, because he was pretty upset with what you said. If some
lunatic comes down with, I'm not encouraging him to do this, but comes down with a weapon or something.
What would you do?
Well, how do you control that? I can't control what.
Well, just watch your mouth. Don't talk poorly about Stacey.
Just be vanilla. Don't talk to anybody.
Just be nice. You want everybody to like you, right?
Everybody.
Try it.
Well, I don't
be nice to Stacey.
I just don't want to be an ass kisser so I don't get in trouble. We already got a guy like that. It's Willie. Hey, Tom and Coleraine, you're on the big one.
Hey, guys, what's up?
What's up, buddy?
Hey, I agree with you, Tracy. I think that guy, that last caller, dude, he was stoked pretty well.
He does sound fired up, didn't he?
Yeah, and Tom, Sloan even during the break was kind of playing it off, and I think he has a little bit of concern here. I would be concerned if some guy was threatening me, wanting to fight me.
Well, man, we've all been there, but that guy, I'm telling you, you get young people involved in things, and they don't think rationally. They do things out of emotion.
Would you take Sloan in a fight with this guy? I mean, he was 160 pounds.
Was he 160 pounds?
He was about 160 pounds.
Tracy's really good with guessing weight over the phone.
How big Sloaney?
How big am I?
2'3".
300 pounds?
No, he's Sloaney is very thick, very solid.
215.
Big legs. He's got a lot of that strength, that Polish strength that he has.
I think we should probably try to get a cage fight and get Franklin to be the ref.
Really? We have like a steel cage match, maybe?
Yeah.
See, Tom, he's playing this off like it's. I'm telling you, you better watch
Tracy,
it with this guy. I'm telling you, I can.
You know what, though? Tell me, Tom, there are probably multiple people a day that want to whoop Tracy's ass.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right, and there was that guy going back a couple years ago, the guy Purvis from Hamilton that wanted to cut Hunter's head off. The FBI got a hold of him and arrested him. He also wanted to kill the president, blow up the bridges. This is a true story. He's actually getting out in March. This is a true story. The FBI got involved.
How did the FBI find out about that?
Because they tracked him down through an email that he was threatening me and got him in Covington.
Wait a minute. How did they know he was threatening you? Did you
because
go to the authorities?
Because I went to the authorities. Yeah, he was threatening to cut my kid's head off. And you are just, this isn't about me. This is about the situation that you just had. This guy is going to go after you,
Tom,
and you better take a deep breath.
He threatened his kid and he went to the cops?
Guys.
To cut his head off? You wouldn't have gone to the cops over there? You could threaten me, but you don't.
You know that when you can tell someone's rage.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You can tell that on the phone. That guy, man, he was pretty hot.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's part of the job.
Should he report this to the authorities, Sloaney?
I think he should. I think he should keep an eye. I mean, obviously, I'm assuming that since he's got all this inside information just based on listening to the calls. I mean, on the show.
Should I walk him to his car every night to make sure he doesn't get hurt?
No, I don't, Tracy. I don't think this guy's going to do it at a parking lot. I mean, he sounded to me like he's pretty familiar with Mason, and it sounds like Sloan's got a lot of friends there. Maybe do you live out there?
Yeah, I live in DuBois County. Absolutely.
I don't know, man. This dude seemed pretty. He seemed pretty.
Well, I mean,
can you defend yourself? You do a lot of talking with your mouth. Can you actually defend yourself?
Against what?
Well, I mean, let's say a guy knows how to fight. Let's say the guy takes you. Well, how's your ground and pound?
My what?
Your ground and pound.
Take him to the ground and pound him?
No, he's going to take you to the ground.
No, he's not.
How's your defense? You don't know what this guy looks like. You don't know how big. I mean, there was a personal issue.
You want me to call the FBI over this? This is stupid.
I think you should report it to Allie, Human Resources.
I can't believe you called the FBI.
He threatened to cut Hunter's head off.
Okay, and you didn't do anything about that.
That's not even funny. That's nothing. That's stupid. And the guy in the spending purpose did 2 years in prison.
Did the guy tell you where he lived or anything?
No, they tracked him down. They tracked him down from an email. You don't know about it. It was on the Channel 5 News.
Then what do you do?
I didn't even have to testify because I had so much evidence of things that Nervous Purvis was doing. He was threatening people. I'm just saying, don't take this lightly, Sloan. I'm just starting to get used to it. I just got, I had my other partner, and now
Who?
I just like you as my partner. I want this to be a long-term relationship. I like you to stick around.
So one lunatic calls and you're all worried. Tracy, go change your panties. This is embarrassing.
This isn't about me.
I thought you were a fighter.
No, this isn't. I'm not worried about myself. I'm fine.
I thought you were a fighter. Very embarrassing. Sharon Poe, you're on the show. Hi.
How you doing, Sloaney?
I'm doing fine.
Great. Listen, Sloaney, I just wanted to give you a little background information about John. I'm a very close friend of John's, his wife, and we have a very close-knit group of people that met and started fighting the antics of the schools. John started Mason Care back in 2005, which is an opposition of the school levy. Before that, he has struggled to try to fight for the kids and for the safety of the kids. He has brought out this information, but that nobody would do anything about it. If he did say something to the police or to a lawyer about it, they say, well, the school's, handling it, and they didn't do.
Yeah, but Sharon, John had a lot of details.
He does have a lot of details. I've seen the documents, and I have been involved in some of the issues that John, is going to bring forward. But every time he would, the school has been very good over the years of making him look like the fool, making him, ridicule him, scoffing him, because the people of Mason were blinded by the, quote, excellent school system, and nothing like this could ever happen in Mason, and they didn't want to hear it. And I'm just saying is that, John is a very, very good, caring individual. He had 2 kids going through the system, and, he just wanted to bring out, there's a lot of good things about the Mason school system, but the things that are going wrong needed to be corrected, and nobody would listen.
Well, it'll be nice because John and Sloaney actually meeting up tomorrow with documentation as to what's been going on. It sounds like it's been going on for years.
It has. Like I said, he started the group in 2005, which is how I met John and several of the other people. But
hey, Sharon, how long was that train?
I'm sorry?
The train, how long was it?
Oh, Lord. I'd say probably maybe, 100 cars?
Whoa! Oh, my goodness! Sharon!
All right, Sharon, thanks, girl.
All right, guys.
I've never seen a train like that.
Holy cow.
How'd you like to be the caboose on that train? No, thank you.
Here's the crossing.